wellness revolution starts now.
Hello, I'm Dr. Steve Hotze. Welcome to the show today. I have a remarkable guest here at the Hotze Health Wellness Center that I want to introduce to you, and I want her to share her story with you about how she got her life back and how her family got their life back. Sheri Kennedy's our guest. Sheri, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you here. So, Sheri, let's just start from the beginning. You've been a guest here since 2008,
Yes.
okay? That's a long time. What was it that led you to come here to begin with? What kind of symptoms or problems
Well-
were you having that you needed to have addressed?
Well, I had preteen children, so of course I was exhausted from all the running around with sports and activities, and I just noticed that I didn't have the energy that I used to have, and I'd been gaining weight, and my hair was thinning, just a lot of weird things. And so one day my husband said, I was listening to the radio today, and I heard this doctor talking to a lady, and it sounded just like you. And I was like, really? And he said, so we need to make you an appointment. So we made an appointment, and it was phenomenal, the difference that getting on thyroid.
Okay, well, let's talk about what symptoms did you have. How was your energy level at that time?
Oh, it was terrible, terrible.
And you were having difficulty with weight.
Weight, everything.
How about
Sleeping.
How about your thought process, your mental acuity at that time?
Sluggish,
Mhm.
I guess would be the word.
Maybe like a fog.
Yes, brain fog, yes.
And were you
Typical.
having any joint or muscle aches or pains?
Some, but then I also have fibromyalgia and Sjogren's
Right.
syndrome.
Right.
So I never knew, is it the thyroid or is it the autoimmune issues?
Well, just to speak of that, a lot of these symptoms and these syndromes aren't a diagnosis. They're simply a syndrome, a
Right.
compilation of symptoms, and they
Mhm.
give it a name.
Right.
The question is, if you got Sjogren's syndrome, why? What's causing
Exactly.
it?
And
It's not
I've-
a disease in itself. It's
Yeah.
just a compilation of various symptoms. And so anyway, you came in, and were you having any problems with your menstrual cycles?
Heavy, just
Yeah.
heavy,
Okay.
things like that.
So when you came in, why did you came in because your husband had heard about it, right?
Yes.
And you had seen your other physicians, and what had they recommended?
Nothing. Not a thing. I'd been going to them saying, are you sure I don't have low thyroid? Because I seem to have all the symptoms. And all of them were like, no, you're good. You're in the range. You're always in the range.
And this is important to notice when you go see your physician, you're concerned you may have thyroid problems. When they do a blood level on thyroid, the normal range encompasses 95% of the population.
Mhm.
That's how they define what the range is. It's the bell-shaped curve. So 95% of the people fall within a high range or a low range or a mid range. 95% of the people, I can assure you, 95% of the people don't feel well. And you can have all the signs and symptoms of a low thyroid and still fall within this wide range of normal. And that's a range of what's in your blood.
Right.
That doesn't tell us anything about what's going on within your cells. And remember, the thyroid gland produces thyroid hormones, which are secreted into the blood, but they have to be assimilated into your cells. You got trillions of cells in your body. Your cells need to produce energy. And we have power plants called the mitochondria, which produce electrical energy. And that electricity then runs all the biochemical processes in your body. If you're not making enough electricity in your cells, you're going to run low voltage.
Yeah.
And then you were running low voltage.
Yes.
And the
Wanting
goal
to
is,
nap.
with each one of our guests, is to get you to be high voltage,
Right.
a live wire. And so we want to help you produce energy. So we know one of the main features of energy production is getting enough thyroid into the cells. And so we use natural desiccated thyroid, and that enables your cells to, that's the active thyroid hormone, T3, that enables the cells to produce electricity. And so when you came in, you saw Dr. Ellsworth.
Dr. Ellsworth, yes.
And based upon your clinical symptoms, he said, I think you've got low thyroid
Right.
within your cells. That doesn't mean you have low thyroid within your blood. It means you don't have enough active thyroid, the active thyroid hormone within your cells. So he recommended that we supplement that.
Right.
So think about it like this. if at any time you really felt great in your life, and we measured you when you were young, your thyroid level could be way up here at an optimal level. Now, as you mature and age and have babies and all that, the hormones fluctuate and go down. And now your thyroid hormone's still within the range, but it's down in the low end of the range. And if your thyroid hormone has dropped 50% from where it was when you felt good, then your energy level's down 50%.
Right, exactly.
So he gave you some thyroid, and then did they put you on some natural female hormones?
Yes, and
So
we also
progesterone.
progesterone and a few other things, and then of course we did the yeast-free
Right.
plan to get everything kicked off,
Right.
and that helped. And then supplements. There were quite a few supplements that I hadn't been taking that have really helped through the years.
So if you can recall back to 15 years, how long did it take you till you began to notice improvement?
I mean, I want to say really quickly. I mean, a month or two. And
Right.
just like we were talking, with my daughter, the thyroid, those changes can happen so fast.
So you had some significant changes, and then your husband came in.
I told him that if I had to come, then he had to come too. And it turned out that he's the one that had Hashimoto's. I didn't.
Okay, we're talking about Hashimoto's. That's autoimmune thyroiditis. That's a condition where your immune system is making antibodies to your own thyroid gland and to the thyroid hormones. And that adversely affects your body's ability to utilize thyroid hormones because they get glommed onto by these antibodies and they can't get into the cells. So your husband had autoimmune thyroiditis.
Yes.
And so he came in how much later after you? Or did they come in?
A year and a half maybe, or
Okay.
maybe a year later.
Okay, tell me about how did he do?
Phenomenally well. We found out that he also had osteopenia, which he's a
At
big
his age, he shouldn't have had that.
no, and he's a big football player. He played football.
Right.
He's huge. He's a linebacker, and we were like, osteopenia. How do you get that? Well, it turns out it was it was the low thyroid, and then a tumor on his parathyroid gland, which
Parathyroid.
Dr. Ellsworth figured out because he always looks to see what the heck's going on with his patients, and figured it out. He had that removed in June.
Now, where did he have that done? Was that done at Norman's?
It was done at Norman's in
out at-
Florida.
We recommend
was
those
phenomenal.
individuals that have parathyroid, which is parathyroid is a gland inside it, are attached to glands that are attached to the thyroid gland, which regulate your calcium.
Yes.
You make too much parathyroid hormone, you leach out calcium, and so that's what they discovered on Sheri's husband, and so got that treated. Probably he also put him on testosterone, I'm sure, didn't he? Or-
I think so.
Yeah.
He's on.
And how did he do?
It's been phenomenal. I mean, the brain fog that he was getting, which we didn't even know a parathyroid tumor would do that.
Right.
I was starting to think, brain injuries from football and just all kinds of horrible things. And it turned out it was just that little tumor that was actually this big, that was supposed to be the size of a grain of rice.
Right.
And so he's done phenomenally well just in a couple of months.
And so he's been on the program.
He's been
for
on the
a
program
long
for 13 years
13
at
years.
least.
Okay, now you have 2 children.
Yeah.
Tell us about your children. So,
So-
so we've had great results with Sheri and your husband. What's your husband's first name?
Kevin.
Kevin. So Sheri and Kevin are having great results, and now their kids are starting to have some problems, right?
When my daughter turned 11, we realized that she had all the same symptoms that we had been going through with the low thyroid. I mean, just jowls, just, weight up here in her upper body, and, always constipated, didn't want to get up in the morning, just, and a lot of people would say, well, she's just 11. And I thought maybe there was something to that since Kevin had the Hashimoto. So we had her checked, and sure enough, she had the antibodies already. And so we brought her here, and I mean, I have to get the pictures out because people don't believe me, within 6 weeks of starting thyroid, all of that puffiness was gone. And she was so slim, and her jaw was, everything was gone, all of this, that her own friends didn't recognize her. We went to first day of school, and people were passing her up and then going, Brianna? They didn't even realize that was her. It was that much of a change. She'd been on Miralax for 3 years from constipation, and the thyroid
That's a
took care of it.
classical feature, too, of low thyroid is constipation. And so the way you take care of it, you get enough thyroid, guess
Right.
what? The energy level goes up and the bowels start working. Not
Yes.
rocket science, is it?
Yep. And then 2 years later, the same thing happened with our son. We did the same thing.
So what kind of symptoms
Huge.
was he having?
Same thing, just puffiness and just, not so much weight gain, it was just fluid retention everywhere, and just cranky in the mornings, you know, for an 11-year-old boy, even crankier than normal. Didn't want to get up. And once we got him on thyroid, same thing.
Now
And he shot up inches as soon as we put him on the thyroid. It's like all of a sudden he, you know, had a huge growth spurt. So
had you taken your children to see some conventional doctors before that?
yes, we
Before bringing
had.
them in? And what had they told you?
Well, my son's pediatrician, who'd had him his whole life, actually called me at home and apologized to me because he told me, I thought you were crazy when you insisted on a Hashimoto's test. And he said, but I have to apologize because he's got the antibodies. But my upline, which I won't say, but it's a major hospital in Houston that they're affiliated with, refused to treat him until they saw damage. And I thought, that's just ridiculous. You don't wait till you see that there's an issue. You head it off at the pass. But
Well, the thyroid is so critical in growth and development, the brain
exactly.
and the whole body. You've got to have energy production
right,
for your body to grow normally and healthfully.
right.
And so the thyroid
Yeah.
made it. And so tell me about any other relatives.
My father was here for years, and then my mother-in-law is still a guest here.
So this is really just a remarkable family story of how certain conditions can run in families, and you had enough wisdom to say, look, if it worked for me, I had these problems, and it worked for my husband, and they're our offspring.
Right.
It makes sense to give them an opportunity to get healthy and give them a trial of thyroid, which Dr. Ellsworth did. And we've had this in numerous other families. We've treated young children down as early as 6 months of age
Wow.
with thyroid.
I wish we had done it sooner.
I mean, it's incredible. The kids that fail to thrive, and you all particularly had the autoimmune thyroiditis, the Hashimoto's. That's a doctor's name that discovered it back in the 20s, and
Right.
his name was Hashimoto. I wonder what he was. He was Japanese, but he was in Germany training there, and so he discovered the antibodies to the thyroid gland. It's called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, or inflammation of the thyroid. So those are great stories. Now, so your care was good, but what do you know why we exist here? Do you know what our purpose is?
To get people's lives back.
Right. That's exactly why we're here. That's the why. We want to help people get on a path of health and wellness naturally without any pharmaceutical drugs. So
Right.
as you mature, you've got energy, you got vitality, and you're enthusiastic about life, right?
Right.
Now, can you imagine if you had not come in 15 years ago and just stayed on that same path, where do you think you would be?
It would have been sad. Because in those years, I've done the MS 150 multiple times. I've hiked the Appalachian Trail. I go snow skiing. I do all kinds of things that I would not have been able to do. I did not have the energy in my late 30s, early 40s that I had in my 50s after I started the treatments.
So you were healthier in your 50s than you were in your late 30s and 40s.
Yes.
And this, which I want to commend you for at that point in your life, taking charge of your health and not going down the conventional pathway where, if you'd have stayed on that pathway, they would have said, oh, honey, your thyroid's just fine.
Right.
You're just a little depressed. And
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't we just give you some
Right.
Prozac, or we'll give
Right.
you some anti-anxiety and sleep medication. Next thing you know, you're on a pot full of medication. And those drugs are all toxic, and they make you sicker quicker, and you're addicted to them. And they don't want to get you well. Talking about pharmaceutical companies, they want you to be taking this medicine and sick all
Which
the time.
then leads to three more, which then leads to three more, and
So you made a great decision coming in and taking charge of your health, and that's why I wanted you all to meet Sheri today, because I think she just has a remarkable story. So you understand our why. Our why is to help people get healthy and well. What did you notice about the type of service that's provided here? Did you notice any difference with our professional staff and our physicians and our pharmacy and vitamins? What did you notice? What's the difference?
everything is top of the line. And your treatment, your products, the care that you receive. And, one thing I'd mentioned when I was talking to you earlier is, all throughout your life, it's not like you fix something and then you're good forever. different things have popped up, in my health, and Dr. Ellsworth has always been able to look at it and figure out what I needed to do. And so it's like I had a little downturn a couple years ago from an inherited disease I didn't realize I had, and it's been phenomenal what, the things that he's put me on. And so now, it's almost like I have my life back again for the second time. So my energy level is coming back up again. I'm sleeping better. And so it's important to have that relationship with a doctor and a clinic that no matter what happens, it's a seamless transition to the next issue, if there is one.
Well, we built into our enterprise's DNA, so to speak, this whole concept of creating a culture in which we could provide extraordinary hospitality and guest service.
Yes, you do.
And we got that, strange as it may sound, from the Ritz-Carlton and the Broadmoor Hotel.
Oh, really?
So years ago, back in 1996, we read about the Ritz-Carlton in a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. We read about it, and we would go on leadership trips, so we went and experienced the Ritz-Carlton and saw the wonderful guest experience they gave us there, and we went to the Broadmoor with our leadership team, and we then said, you know what, let's get out of medical practice and let's get into the hospitality industry, and within that context, provide medical care.
Right.
So why don't we be a first class? So what we changed everything. We put in hardwood floors, nice furnishings, piped in music. We changed our dress, no white
Little snack plates.
and a concierge in the front office, sitting in the reception room, and no waiting room or reception room. And, Becky's just...
Becky's awesome.
She
knows everybody. She remembers everything.
Becky is just like, she is the face of the Hotze Health Wellness Center.
She is.
So by building this culture where we want to cultivate in our guests hope and instill a sense of well-being in them, that we care, we understand, we've heard this before, we're not going to discount what they say, and we're going to dress appropriately. We have all our staff in lovely suits, and everybody looks lovely, and we train. We don't really have to train for that. We recruit for people that love to take care of other people and serve, and that really have a Christian basis for their service. That's what we have here.
Right.
It's we're a Christian organization, although we're not a church, but
Right.
But the people that are attracted here are people that are faithful believers in Christ, and they love to serve, and that's what we have created, this culture here. And we know that within that context, we can help people get well a whole lot easier than if we just wrote a prescription for you and said good luck. I tell our guests, and this may sound a little strange, the way we treat our guests, and we call our patients guests, the way we treat our guests is as important, if not more important, than the treatment we prescribe.
Right. Exactly.
Because if they feel confident and they're encouraged and they're hopeful, then our recommendations are going to easily accept because they know we care about them. It's not just something like, well, here, take this and good luck, call me and see you in a year.
Well, you mentioned all your events. I mean, when you come to an event, it's like you're going to your families. Yeah. Everybody remembers you and they talk to you, and I've got friends here, and now I'm like, some of them are like, I wish you lived closer because we could really get along well. It's like a home place,
And that's why we want it to be that way, because we feel like the experience here is just as important as the treatment we give you, and we love doing it. And we love our guests, and we're friends. We have our events every couple of months. We have an event here at the center and have events around town, and we love to see our people and just enjoy the fellowship with them, and it's great.
One thing I love about it is always on top of things. Like, you guys from day one have always been ahead of the curve on vitamin D, on magnesium, on Arterisol, all the different things that have come out. That
well, Sheri, this is just a remarkable story, and I want to thank you for being such a wonderful advocate and ambassador for us here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center.
I tell everybody.
You are wonderful. Now, if you ever are looking to come and work with us, we'd love to have you here full time because you're such a great advocate of what we do, and we thank you.
I've enjoyed every minute of it, and y'all have saved my life. I've told many people that.
If you're interested in getting on a path of health and wellness naturally and want to get your life back and want to have energy, vitality, and enthusiasm for life again, please give us the opportunity to partner with you to get you on that path of health and wellness. I'm Dr. Steve Hotze. Great having you today. Join us for this really stimulating and encouraging conversation with Sheri Kennedy. And thank you, Sheri, for being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
At Physicians Preference Pharmacy, we understand that the quality of your compounded medications directly affects the way you feel, which is why we believe that your pharmacy should specialize in compounding medications while also delivering extraordinary hospitality and guest service. We believe that both patients and prescribers should accept nothing less than consistency and quality from their compounding pharmacy. This is why we've implemented some of the strictest quality standards in compounding, exceeding standard requirements, achieving PCAB accreditation, which is the Pharmacy Compounding Accreditation Board, an organization that sets the highest standards in compounding pharmacy regarding the safety, cleanliness, and quality of your compounded prescriptions. Because of our commitment to complete health and wellness, we are dedicated to making your medications free of lactose, parabens, artificial sweeteners, and any unnecessary dyes, binders, or fillers present in many other medications, offering you the cleanest products possible.
Information provided on this program is neither intended nor implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice and is not intended to replace the services of a physician, nor does it constitute a doctor-patient relationship. You should not use information from this radio program to diagnose or treat a health problem or disease without consulting with a qualified healthcare provider. If you have or suspect you have an urgent medical problem, promptly contact a professional healthcare provider or call 911. Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution advises you to always seek the advice of a physician or other qualified health provider prior to starting any new treatment or with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Any application of the recommendations from this program is at the listener's discretion.